Sweden lay silent as though dead. The houses were left to the rats and crows. Our land was wasted by the Black Death, and our souls were filled with sorrow and guilt at the sign of God's great wrath. This is my city in 1535. In London, Henry VIII has just married Anne Boleyn. In Stockholm, Gustav Vasa rules. Originally, Stockholm was just an island in Strömmen, a channel leading from the Baltic. The name Stockholm means tree island, Stockholm. But now it is a flourishing city, with many fine houses within its walls. A 100 years and more have passed. From distant Europe echoes the thunder of the 30 Years' War and Cromwell's cannons. And in Södermalm, the south of the city, there are witches. Children starve in the dark alleys, but I myself wear handsome clothes and eat game pasties and roast swan. And in the royal palace, Tre Kronor, the 3 Crowns, lives the warrior king, Charles XI. Now the year is 1700. In April of this year, Marlborough's contemporary, the young King Charles XII, rides off to his wars in Germany, Poland and Russia. He will never see Stockholm again. The new palace by Nicodemus Tessin is not yet completed, but I can admire its promise as I take my Sunday stroll. But I have other things to admire besides architectural splendor. The new fishing harbor of Helgeandsholmen, the harbor of the Holy Ghost, though here the smells are somewhat different. The driving of sleighs at excessive speeds by foolhardy servants is hereby strictly forbidden, at pain of a fine of 40 silver crowns. Thus the city fathers in 1703, and not without cause. I often see collisions and sleighs out of control. The Rococo style of living we had borrowed from France. Later, the English influence will become great, especially at the beginning of the 19th century, but we haven't reached there yet. Now, towards the end of the 18th century, we have tired of our old wooden bridge, the Slaughterhouse Bridge, that leads from the Royal Palace to Norrmalm. The King has bought the Ekeblads mansion on Norrmalm's Torg to turn it into a new opera house. And for the approach to this, a better bridge is of course needed. For now we are living in the brilliant epoch of Gustav III, and perhaps I am one of those who break stones for this fine new bridge, a poem in granite. In 1793, while England is fighting against the young Napoleon, the bridge is half completed. The opera house is already 11 years old, and the old Nonsuch Palace still in a state of semi-ruin. This same year, it will become the Royal Theatre, Dramaten. (1805). The player-king Gustav III is dead, murdered at a masquerade, but his bridge is finished, and the piazza changes its name. Now it is called Gustav Adolfs Torg, after Queen Christina's father, Cromwell's contemporary, and the great warrior of the 30 Years' War. Skeppsbron, the original harbour of Stockholm, is being broadened, and we're all waiting excitedly to see the statue of Gustav III, which the great sculptor Sergel has made. It has now been cast in bronze, but we shan't see it erected until 1811. The surroundings are rather chaotic, and the view from the palace is both untidy and noisy. But the statue is beautiful, and I often pause to admire it with my friends. Further to the south, Skeppsbron is nearing completion. Ships crowd in from every corner of the globe. Wine from Bordeaux, cloth from Dublin, and barges from Finland with timber, skins, cheese and butter. The Red Lock, built by the great Christopher Polhem, is becoming out of date, and people are finding it a nuisance to get up from Strömmen into the higher level of Lake Mälaren. Romanticism is on the way. We are reading Wordsworth and Shelley. We indulge in country walks. Our Hyde Park is named Haga, and here the 18th century survives, under the softly English shadows of the trees. Just now a lot is happening in my city. In 1818 the first steamboat appeared, built by an Englishman, Samuel Owen, and others soon followed. But sailing ships still dominate the harbour. I'm a little doubtful what clothes I ought to wear. Many of us still sport the knee breeches of the 18th century, but the ladies have already begun to imitate the empire fashions they've learned from the continent. My city has two faces. One is soft and pastoral, turned towards Mälaren and the Rococo landscape that surrounds this great lake. But westward she wears a martial look, with her proud harbour and ships from all the world. Kungsholmen is pure countryside, and I have an aunt here who keeps cows. But industry has begun to arrive, and my uncle works in a blacking factory. And I myself have often tramped across this long bridge past the old mill when I was helping to dig leech pools for the Apothecaries Society. I write in 1825. Last Thursday, the 24th of November, while I was watching The Triumph of Morality Over Scandal, a play that hath pleased the town, at the Royal Theatre, a fire broke out, and the whole of our ancient Nonsuch palace was burned down. Sic transit gloria mundi. Skeppsbron is the handsomest street in the city. Here the steam schooner Stockholm lies at anchor. She sails to Finland once a week. A new age has dawned. In from the sea pour more and more swift and beautiful ships. So great has my city grown. Soon we shall be 100,000 inhabitants. It's the fashion to take the waters. I'm doing it at the well on Mosebacke, within the boundaries of the city. Now, in the 1840s, there were many inns. 28 in this block alone, and almost as many in Myntgatan, Silver Street. And there are other houses of pleasure, too. But it's cold. Even so, I enjoy taking my evening walk in the winter twilight across Norrbro, the North Bridge, which is gay and frivolous, as befits the thoroughfare of a big city. Perhaps I'm buying Almquist's The Thorn Rose in Herr Adolf Bonnier's bookshop, or a cigar in the Havana cigar shop, or I drink a bowl of punch on one of the red plush sofas at Storr's Café du Bazar, while other gentlemen of leisure drift by in the December dusk. Now it is 1886, the year Gladstone presented his first Home Rule Bill. When I travel by water, I prefer to take a steam sloop rather than be rowed by oars. Now the steamships have taken over completely and have grown long and tall, though of course there are still full riggers on certain lines, but the traffic in Strömmen has become dreadful. Stockholm is a water city, as she has been for centuries. I never tire of wandering along the harbours of Strömmen. In Paris there has been a renaissance of painting. Impressionism has triumphed. In my city, too, painting is flourishing as never before. These last years of the 19th century are rich in colour, impressions, atmosphere, analysis. Some go to Paris and learn to paint. Many are there, but Eugene Jansson cannot go. Not everyone can afford to. Together, he and I see how our city is slowly uglified. Ageli, a Swedish modernist, meets Gauguin, Cézanne, and Van Gogh. The Finnish poet Snoilsky described the scene at the end of the century. Old Stockholm is night, quiet in the quiet moonlight. Silhouetted against the shining water, the palace rises with its sister bridge. The witchcraft of dusk gently hides what is ugly. The echo awakes in the distance like a Bellman melody. I find many other forms of romance in my city. In the necklace of lights along Hornsgatan on a spring evening, or the rattle and groan as the steam tram pushes its way up a hill, but most of all in the dusk on the lakeside. It is also the age of the dramatist August Strindberg. It is the custom of the time to pull down houses, but what will be built in their place, people ask, and click their tongues. I reply, we pull them down to get light and air. Isn't that enough? We are blasting the rocks with nitroglycerine. We are flattening out my city. The years before the First World War, Einar Julin and Isaac Grunewald, two pupils of Cézanne, share a studio in Paris in 1908. Now they are home again. Now it's 1917, and the youth of Europe is bleeding to death in Flanders. Here at home we have peace, but unemployment is bad. But I am lucky. I have a job helping to build the town hall. A job with a future, my father says, and he's right. We shall be working on it for 6 more years. Stockholm during the Second World War. The buses are running on producer gas, and the ship to Finland carries big neutrality flags. But otherwise Skeppsbrunn is empty and deserted for the first time for many centuries. Though that doesn't affect me. I am at a field post somewhere in Sweden. The trains are still puffing through old Karlberg station, as they've been doing for nearly 100 years. But now the underground is setting its mark on our city. I use it myself. I live in a suburb nowadays, in Vällingby, Rågsved or Farsta, but I haven't completely lost touch with the past. Stockholm, I love your face through all its transformations, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow is no closer nor further away than yesterday. We have walked for a moment in my beautiful city, a brief moment of 400 years.